Good evening to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our tropical weather outlook video for this Thursday evening, August 14th, 2025. Sorry for the late upload, and I'm pretty sure not a lot of people are going to see this video anyways, but I still wanted to get a video out tonight because there's quite a bit that's happened with the tropics today. Erin is strengthening, and as you could tell by the title card, Erin is almost a hurricane now. In fact, I would not be surprised if we wake up tomorrow to Erin being a strengthening hurricane. And we have Invest 98L to go over, which is in the Bay of Campeche, and that is looking more and more likely that might have a shot to develop and become a quick spin up before it moves into the northeastern and southern Texas, northeastern Mexico and southern Texas coastline late tomorrow. I'll go over all of that, and again, a lot of activity that we're now monitoring in the tropics. But of course, let's start off with Tropical Storm Erin. Definitely doing very well this evening. Convective activity, very aggressive over the storm right now. In fact, you see we have these very aggressive convective bursts occurring right now directly over the center. And you could also see, if only the satellite image would not be so faulty, but lots of very pronounced outflow as well. Recon went in earlier, and they found that this is a strengthening system. And once again, I would not be surprised if we wake up to Erin tomorrow being a strengthening hurricane. And the National Hurricane Center, as of this evening, as of the 8 o'clock advisory, because they are now starting to do intermediate advisories now that tropical storm watches are in effect for the northern Caribbean islands. But the latest advisory out of the National Hurricane Center, 70 miles per hour, minimum central pressure of 999 millibars, and it is located at 16.9 north and 51.9 west, and it's moving west still at 17 miles per hour. And then we have 98L here. And this actually got some recon today, and they found that there is a circulation with 98L, still not yet, solid enough that this is a tropical system, but it's now up to a coin flip that this might potentially develop really quickly and really briefly before it moves into the northeastern Mexico and southern Texas coasts late tomorrow. And I really quickly do want to show you the recon that we got with Erin today. And you could see definitely a more aligned system because over the last day or so, Erin has dealt with slightly with northeasterly shear, which is probably what's kind of kept it from strengthening too rapidly over the last several days. But Erin definitely becoming a much more noticeably stacked storm today. And as a result, we're starting to see strengthening. Flight level winds have been recorded by the recon above 64 knots, so already in the flight levels of the atmosphere. So I would say around 700 millibars in the atmosphere, so not quite at the surface, but pretty close to the surface. We already have hurricane force winds present. It's just a matter of if those winds are able to mix their way down. And eventually, this is very close to becoming a hurricane. And in fact, here's the vortex data message. They recorded a pressure of 1,002 millibars, and they actually say that the maximum flight level winds that they recorded were 68 knots. So you would correlate that to 60 knots at the surface, and as a result, we have an advisory of 70 miles per hour with Erin. And this is 1,002 millibar pressure. You could actually say that for a storm that's almost a hurricane, a pressure in the low 1000s is a little bit high, but you have to keep in mind that Erin is a small storm, so its pressure will be slightly higher, and it's also in an environment right now that generally has higher pressures, like the Eastern Atlantic. So wouldn't pay attention to the pressure too much, but this will probably also go down quite a bit throughout the night as we head into tomorrow. And let's really quickly show you the cone by the National Hurricane Center. Forgot to bring it up. Let me actually bring this into a separate tab. This is going to strengthen, probably going to strengthen tomorrow into a hurricane. That's what the National Hurricane Center forecasts. And then over the next several days, we're really going to have to start watching, because it looks like this might actually get close enough to the northern Antilles Islands that this might have some impacts on them. And we're probably not going to see a direct landfall on any of these islands for right now, except if these southerly trends continue. And I'll show you what the models have been doing today with these southerly and westerly trends. And they've definitely been getting a lot more interesting for the Bahamas and even for some along the East Coast. Although I don't want to, stress that part too much because there's still lots of uncertainty with what Erin is going to do, especially as it progresses westward. But the islands, especially these northern Antilles Islands, are going to have to start watching Erin very closely. Tropical storm watches are in effect. And let's actually really quickly go to the public advisory so I could just read off what the warnings are. Anguilla, and Barbuda, St. Martin and St. Bartholomew, Saba and St. Eustatius and St. Martin, or Martin or something like that. Definitely butchering some of these names, but if you see your island or your location here on this map, you are under a tropical storm watch, so you should be getting your plans ready, and of course watching Erin very closely. And it's definitely going to intensify over the next several days. It's in a pocket of very low wind shear right now, and that wind shear is going to remain low for at least the next few days. And you could also see here on the upper level wind direction, because this is not only a map of the wind shear, but also the direction that the winds are moving in the atmosphere. And this is stacked directly under an upper level anticyclone, where winds in the upper levels are moving away from the storm, allowing for lower shear and for very pronounced outflow. Like I showed you on the satellite, this has some serious outflow, and that's just going to only allow it to strengthen and probably, again, going to become a hurricane tomorrow. Would not be shocked. And in a few days beyond that, probably going to become a major hurricane as well. And then notice here in the Gulf of Mexico, our other area that I really, we need to keep a watchful eye on. And I said yesterday that we needed to keep a watchful eye on what is now 98L today. Wind shear 2 is also very low. And now that, brings us to our next section of today's video, which is 98L in the Western Gulf right now. And you can see this also has quite a vigorous circulation. Also, look at the outflow here. So definitely has very prime atmospheric conditions, and you can definitely tell that this is something that is trying to get going with 98L, although the main thing is convection kind of dying out in these recent frames. But it is the overnight hours. We probably will see convection spike up quite a bit tomorrow morning as we head into derailment maximum, so I would not pay attention to this. But the one thing I would pay attention to, you could already see on this satellite image, very vigorous circulation that this storm has. And as I mentioned before, sea surface temperatures are very, very warm in the Gulf. Wind shear is very low. And the Bay of Campeche in the Gulf, especially the Western Gulf, is a very prime location for quick spin-ups to happen. And it's August, for Pete's sake, it's August. It's August 15th. We're halfway through the month now, or at least it's August 15th in Zulu time. In Eastern time, which is where I'm recording this right now, it's 10:01, so we're 2 hours away from being August 15th. But we're pretty much halfway through August now. We're starting to get towards the meat of the hurricane season, or the peak of the hurricane season. And we really tend to have very quick spin-up storms as well that can catch people by surprise. And I think this is the making of a system that just might do that. Come tomorrow before it moves inland over northeastern Mexico and southern Texas. So this is an interest to the United States as well, which is especially why I'm bringing it up. And Recon went into 98L today as well, and they found a circulation. So not only could you see that this has a visible, vigorous circulation and vorticity with it, but Recon also confirmed it today. There's not necessarily a closed low-level center yet, but I would not be surprised if it's not far from doing so, and it probably only has a few hours that it's going to need some very strong convective activity, and it'll probably be able to organize quickly into a tropical system. And once again, just to put you into perspective, look at how warm the sea surface temperature anomalies are throughout the Gulf, especially the Western Gulf. So this has lots of energy and certainly lots of heat to work with, and you know, lots to tap into that it'll be able to very quickly spin up, and that's definitely going to work in its favor. And throughout the entire Atlantic as well, very warm sea surface temperature anomalies remain throughout the MDR, and especially in the Western Atlantic, where sea surface temperature anomalies are at least a degree Celsius, if not more, above normal, and that's what's going to tap into, or that's what Erin is going to tap into over the next several days, and that'll probably allow it to strengthen, and once again, probably become a major hurricane as it progresses here in the Western Atlantic. And track, we're going to have to still figure it out. But it's starting to get a little interesting, I will say that, and I'll show you what the GFS shows today. As of the 18Z model run, still out to sea. So the GFS still has an out to sea storm. Definitely brings us a little bit further west than it did about a day or two ago. I think if I bring this back to yesterday's run, the GFS had this going directly over the island of Bermuda. And now today, the GFS has this going just to the west of Bermuda. So besides the northern Caribbean islands, Bermuda will also have to watch out for this system as well. And then eventually this recurves and stays off the east coast and even off of Atlantic Canada, although I will say Atlantic Canada should watch very closely as well. And then you can see right here, yet another system developing on the GFS, and there's probably more activity that follows behind it. So again, this Erin is just the beginning, even if, this will not impact the United States or bring major impacts to land. Don't breathe a sigh of relief yet, because we probably have more coming behind it. And then I'll zoom in. No, let me actually show you what the European operational shows first. And I'd say that the European is actually definitely further to the west of the GFS. Both models keep it out to sea, so you have that. Both of the global models keep it out to sea, but the European is definitely further to the west than the GFS. And of course, something I really should stress too, just notice how much it blossoms, especially once it's in the Western Atlantic. Once again, conditions are just prime. The atmosphere is nuclear, especially in the southwestern Atlantic off the East Coast, and this will probably bomb out and become quite an intense major hurricane. And we'll have to see how these track forecasts continue, because it seems like every single day the track is shifting just a little bit further and further to the west. And then really quickly, before I show you the final thing for today, you can see the signal here for 98L. Definitely some sort of small vorticity signature that ramps up as it moves northward into the northeastern Mexico and southern Texas coastline. Probably wouldn't pick up on the European well since it's a global model, but would not be surprised if that right there is probably, and this is heading into tomorrow evening, and overnight tomorrow night into early Saturday, as this moves into Texas. Definitely would not be surprised if that is a signature of probably a small and potent, quick tropical storm that moves into Texas. But it's a tropical storm. It'll probably bring impacts too. And that's also something you should remember with 98L, probably regardless of development, heavy rain for northern Mexico and southern Texas. So keep in mind of that. But related to Erin, this is especially why I'm getting interested. Here are the European ensembles for this afternoon. So from the 12Z run, so this is the daytime run of Erin. And notice just how close a lot of these members get to the East Coast. In fact, you even have one member that actually crosses the East Coast along the North Carolina Outer Banks. And I will tell you, especially if I were to bring a run from a few days ago of the European, this has definitely shifted quite a bit further west. And I also seen on Twitter, and I should have brought the tweet up, but Erin is still riding along the southern end of the track envelope on pretty much every single model. So we'll have to watch. Maybe even if this does not still directly impact the East Coast, especially if Erin intensifies enough and grows in size, we still might get impacts from the outer fringes of Erin along the East Coast, and maybe that might prompt some watches and warnings. So we'll have to see what happens. But what I'm trying to point out is it's still not game over. It's still not breathe a sigh of relief from Erin. And in fact, a lot of this track forecasting stuff related to Erin, especially once it reaches the East Coast and near Bermuda, it's still 5 to 7 days out. And in the hurricane tracking world, that's a while. So do not breathe a sigh of relief yet when it comes to Erin, especially if you're along the East Coast, especially if you are in the Northern Caribbean islands, since you guys now have tropical storm watches. So you guys are more than likely going to get some form of impacts. Watch the system closely. And just to close out, you could also see the signal too for 98L as it heads to northern Mexico and southern Texas tomorrow and Friday. So lots to keep up here with the tropics. We'll definitely continue to do that. I'll have a video for you tomorrow. And I'll be posting on Twitter as well. Did not really get to post on Twitter much today or yesterday, but definitely going to be posting on Twitter tomorrow a lot more definitely compared to today. So please make sure to follow me on Twitter at Danilo Evangelista, and make sure to follow me here on YouTube. Subscribe, turn on the notification bell too, so you can get videos the moment I upload them. And of course, enjoy the rest of your evening. We're gonna wrap it up for tonight, but keep a watchful eye on Erin. Obviously, do not lose sleep over it. Make sure to have a good night's sleep. And then let's resume talking about Erin tomorrow. So, with that being said, enjoy the rest of your night. Have a good night. Have a good sleep. And I'll be back with more tomorrow morning.